NCRP Productions presents the Fireside Chat series. Hi, this is Barry, and welcome back to another Fireside Chat. I'm here with Pedro.
Hey, everybody.
As always, and this episode, we had told everyone we were going to let them know we are going to talk about our trip down to DunDraCon 46. I'll say it again, DunDraCon 46. Apparently, I slur those words and make it sound like DunDraCon because everyone thinks it's Dunder Mifflin.
Everyone I talked to, I think everyone I heard say DunDraCon too.
Right. But it's supposed to be Dungeons and Dragon Convention, it being 46 years in the making, but in reality, it's been longer than that. There were a couple of odd years. There's a whole write-up in the front side of it. But this is the convention that's on the West Coast here. It is somewhere in the San Francisco, Oakland Bay area. It kind of has moved around over the years. Right now, it's at the Santa Clara Marriott. And I think we had a pretty good time.
I think we had a great time. I had a blast. I mean, this was my first, what I'm going to call, real gaming convention.
Right, because we've had the small ones here, but
but this was it was an experience. So okay. I look forward to talking about that. But we're not going to be going over all of our experiences today.
No. What we're looking at doing is we are going to bring you a full con report. We're not sure yet what we're going to do as far as the name or the title of what the thing we're doing is, but we're going to bring on all of the people that went down with us this year from the podcast. We had you and I, of course.
Yep.
We had Dave.
We had Ty.
We had David. And David, of course, runs our Star Wars game. Ty's run the Fading Suns. And then Dave, of course, is famous for the Shadowrun game. And he will be actually the one who is the lead, the game master on our Cold Cuts Dungeons and Dragons game that's coming out in the future.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's almost a little hard not to talk about all the details of that. But the nice thing is talking on the podcast side is that we had a larger group this year. This is our second DunDraCon podcast, our second Fireside about this. So we had a bigger group, which was nice, and this time I got to go, which was nice too.
Which is important for you, yeah.
Yeah, which is important for me.
It's important for the podcast. Yeah. Both have show up, you and I.
Yeah, and so another fun thing is that we got T-shirts.
Right.
So,
we had our T-shirts done, the T-shirts with the amazing logo on the back, and we wore them in force. So.
Yep. So we were our own little squad, and then when we broke up, we each got to represent a little bit in there. So that was nice, getting getting to play in these games, and then people asking what this big green symbol on your shirt is.
Right.
Or if or one of our cards accidentally fell on the table. Yeah.
Right. Accidentally, exactly. Right out of my pocket or your pocket.
Yeah. So it was cool, and everybody was receptive, and they all were like, "Oh, neat, you do." They were like, "Well, what do you guys do?" So we got to kind of network a little bit for the podcast, which was fun with people who are also there.
I had an enjoyable thing happen for me. I was in the Larry Ditillo, I think they call it Memorial Library. I apologize to everyone because I don't remember the exact name, but Larry was a great guy in gaming and a Bay Area guy, and all of his games were donated to DunDraCon as a free gaming library. You can come, you can borrow the game, and you can play there at the convention. But I was in there talking with a wonderful woman up front, and she said, "My, you have an amazing voice." And I said, "Thank you," because, of course, that's the only thing you can ever say. And I said, you can actually hear it more on our podcast. And she said, "You do a podcast?" And I said, "Well, yes, I did." There was another card that fell out of my pocket right into her hands. So maybe we'll get a new listener, I hope.
So it was nice. Yeah, I think we'll get a few more listeners. So yeah, it was good. And then all of our name tags we got to rep on there too. So it was a fun time.
It was. Now, so we learned a few things this time around. As far as what we want to do for next year, what were you thinking the audience needs to know for next year?
Yeah, so if you're listening and you want to play in any games with us, well, after going this year and playing in some games, but also not getting into some games that I wanted to play,
not getting into a lot of games, let me tell you.
So several of us actually, I think the ones that did, so you had considered it, but three of us, myself, Ty and David, all are pretty much going to be running something next year as long as we can get apply and get in. We all want to play. We all want to run something.
Right.
Yeah.
That next year kind of show our chops as game masters, but also identifying us for the podcast so people can see what we do in running.
Yeah, so that was one thing exciting. You know, I really got amped for next year because, you know, I had such a fun time in all of these games that I was like, you know what, this should be good. And also not getting into games too was like, okay, well, I want to be doing something. So,
and I know in some ways that's going to be something that we're going to cover for the group podcast that's coming up. But something I kind of looked at, we went through that list of the different games that were out there, and because of all the things that have gone on in the D&D world at this point, I had an expectation that 5th edition would do well, with the fear that it might not because of the repercussions from that. And I think 5th edition was well shown there. I mean, there were so many 5th edition D&D games.
I would say at least a quarter.
But the game, I think it was more than that. I think it was at least a third. But the crazy thing was the few games that I had an interest in, as usual, most everyone knows already by now that I'm not much of a D&D player. Most of the games that I wanted to get into were not just closed and filled, but overfilled. There was a Coyote and Crow game. They had 29 people trying to get into that one with 5 players only. There was a Dark Sun game. I think there were 11 players over. There's an interesting story with that. But again, same thing.
The Deadlands one I was in.
The Deadlands
Same
had
thing.
how many? Do you remember?
I want to say it was like 20. Like,
Yeah.
there was a lot of people using their priority slips.
Yeah, the alien had 44. One of the aliens had 44. The other Deadland I thought had 33. So it was interesting. So what I'm getting at is hopefully next year at DunDraCon, all of the NCRP Productions Game Masters are going to go down there and hopefully run at least one. Dave, which we'll let him talk about that more, but Dave did run one down there, and then he ran an open game with the Mutant Crawl Classics from Goodman Games. He is I think the term is Outrider. I'm not sure what the term is. We'll ask him when we talk again.
There's a specific one.
But he is one of those people that gets to run at different conventions, and he ran a game there as well. And if I remember correctly, did you play in it?
I was in it, and it was super fun. I never got to play the system, so we'll go into that, in the next one.
Perfect. Well, what else do we want to cover for DunDraCon that we're not going to cover upcoming? Is there anything?
No, I mean, a lot of the other things that I'm really, amped to talk about are just more of the details of it. But overall, to, cap that off, it was just an amazing weekend.
It was a really fun weekend. I'm tired. I'm sore from sleeping in a hotel bed.
Yeah.
Got to sit in the hot tub a little bit.
Yep, that
Wish
was
the hot
fun.
tub was hotter. One of the complaints that none of the other guys are going to have, but our room, the water did not warm up.
We were the only ones, it seemed, out of our group that everybody else had hot water, or at least they did after a couple minutes, but we had like lukewarm.
I made the joke of we had pretty much Leia warm water.
Yeah.
We had cold as a bitch. I'm not sure if that's a term that we get to use, but it was
Probably
cold.
not.
It was cold water.
It was very
It was
cold
Luke
water.
at best.
Yes.
In fact, I was in for one of the games, which you'll learn tomorrow which one, but I was in one of the games. I went into the bathroom, turned on the warm water, and it was hot enough that I had to pull my hand out from it. That was never the case anywhere in our room.
Not even close.
Nope. So anyway, one negative. Hopefully they will get that wing of the hotel with a good water heater.
Yeah. Don't go.
Or at
to
least
ours.
not run it through the ice. I don't know. Maybe it's running through the ice machine. I couldn't tell you.
I don't know, but yeah, that was something.
Well, with DunDraCon done, let's talk about some of the things that are upcoming for us. I'm going to mention that in the very near future, it looks like we are going to start Feast of Legends.
Feast of Legends, yes. So we may have talked this on the last one, but yeah, I am going to be game mastering again. It's been a little while, and
It has been.
I'm excited because this is just the kind of, like, if you've listened to the Honey Heist, you could tell I like kind of spoofy, fun games. So I'm excited for this one because I'm going to try my best to portray a combination between, Wendy's the restaurant ridiculousness and Game of Thrones seriousness.
Game of Thrones, Feast of Legends. All right, I like it already.
I'm hoping to do, and I think I got a pretty fun little story for it. So,
Okay.
So I'm very excited about that. But we got a few other things coming, right?
Once that one is done, at least with that group, it sounds like we are going to get a Root game as well.
Yeah, John was mentioning that.
So I'm hopeful there. Can't give too much away with that because we don't know a whole lot. There was hey, I'd like to run it, and we said, yeah, you're running it.
Yeah, sounds good.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
So we just got our Valentine's Day special, the Kids on Bikes. We decided that Valentine's Day was important enough of a day, or was a way for us to get out of doing things that we didn't want to do anyway. So we did. And your Valentine is in it playing Jade, so that's lucky for you.
That was fun. No, I feel lucky to be able to play games with
But
her.
by the time this comes out, everyone should definitely have heard that, and if you didn't, go back and listen to the Valentine's Day special.
Go get a laugh on and maybe some cringe in there too.
And then a little farther out, we are trying to match this up as best we can with the actual release. Ulysses Spiel has Torg Eternity.
Torg, yes.
Yeah, and we have been enjoying that in all its myriad ways. We've talked about it a few times on the podcast, but we have Greg running the Torg Eternity Pan-Pacifica Day 1 adventure. It's going to be a 5-part series, and we will hopefully be releasing it. We may not match it perfectly simply because it doesn't seem like Ulysses Spiel knows when they're releasing this game, but we will be releasing it around the time that it is released, so hopefully the first listing of it's in stock somewhere that week. Those will be coming out on Sundays.
For you game masters who want a little peek ahead of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, again, farther in the distance, as I had just mentioned, Dave is going to run for us our first official Dungeons & Dragons game for the podcast. Because Pugmire is not really officially D&D, neither is Feast.
Close, but, we've skirted the line for a while.
We have. But you know what? I will tell you this. So I am not a D&D fan is not the right word. I'm not a D&D player. Dungeons & Dragons just didn't do it for me. That is not a knock on the game. Might be a knock on me, but it is not something that I really enjoyed. However, I have played about a year's worth. I'm admitting it here online. I have played about a year's worth of 5th edition with a group. Wow, am I having a good time. Wow, is the system not getting in the way, which is something that Dungeons & Dragons has done in the past.
If you're doing 5e right, yeah, it can mesh really well.
And you've run 5th edition for quite a while.
I have. I like it. I've been able to use it to do, a lot of different story things. The combat's interesting to work with depending on what kind of group you have, but it has a lot to it. It's just also it's popular, it's what everybody does, which is
it is.
To each their own.
In all honesty, I feel like this edition has kind of embodied what Dungeons & Dragons to me should be, because it was the first, because it was the best known, because it has had the best advertising behind it. In a lot of cases, it's had some of the best artwork, all the iconic things that most people think of coming out of role-playing games, the tabletop versions, are from Dungeons & Dragons. And this new 5th edition, it's easy to get into, it's easy to understand, I think it's easy to play, I think it's very easy to game master, but then that's cheating for me. I've been game mastering for over 40 years, so it's easy for someone who's done it, but I feel like it is actually easy for those people who haven't done it.
And after, experiencing the other side of where Dungeons & Dragons came from, looking at it, and I remember a long time ago reading that what they tried to do with 5e, or what kind of happened with it, and I know that's pretty much true now, is they took a lot of the role-playing stuff that people liked from like the 1 and 2e, or maybe 2e, and then they just kind of tried to keep it with an updated, simplified rule system, because 2e, I now know, is a very complex system, and that's simplifying it.
And you're alluding to what we're going to be talking about with the group, which is the Dark Sun 2e game that we got to play in. And yes, 2nd edition D&D. Well, with that in mind, Dave is going to run a series for us called Cold Cuts. It will be our first step into the Dungeons & Dragons waters, and we'll have to see. I mean, if it's well received, there will potentially be more. I know there are more things we can do.
Oh, yeah, we can do a lot.
And along the lines of things that we can do, Pedro, here's the big one for everyone. We have something new coming, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're looking at me like you've forgotten the newsletter.
The way you led that up, I thought you were talking about something completely different. I was
Well,
like,
yeah,
wait
it
a
could
minute,
be
no,
something completely
this is-
different, but it's not. It's the newsletter.
This is so the first one has already come out.
Oh, well,
the
shoot.
first two technically.
Darn it.
So that's where my confusion came from. But yes, so one of the big new things is that we have revamped the Patreon. You know, those that are patrons, thank you for your patience on
As
that.
always, thank you for being a patron of NCRP Productions. We can't do it without you.
And thank you for your patience in, us getting it up and really running, So we have revamped it, and we have a lot of cool stuff coming out, some additions. Some things that I just wanted to mention really quick that I'm excited about is, one, we've actually updated the names a little bit, so we still have kept for Jimmy. We now have and that's the $1 tier. We have the $3 tier at the Bilge Rats, which is funny if you've listened to our Morkborg. We got, the third one, the $5 Seeks and Employees of the Month, just a little name change. And finally, the last one did change to Breaker of Seals, and that is our $10 tier. But some cool things that are coming with that. One, so we have the monthly item or NPC. So our wonderful artist, Sequoia, is doing some awesome art. We've released one, and another one is coming up. So we've released one item, a magic item, Good Heart, as well as we will be releasing this month our first NPC, Bitsy. And so we're really excited about that. So we're trying to create some magic items for y'all and some NPCs that you can throw into your game.
Now, are these going to be done like the spell cards and the magic item cards? Is this going to be something where they're going to be able to maybe cut it, if they print it, cut it out? Or is this just something that they're going to keep the page next to them for these amazing items?
So the way that we have it laid out, you could definitely turn this into a little card. It's not necessarily in the form of like a playing card,
Okay.
but it's a little item, item slip. You'll have your image on one side of the actual item or NPC, and then on the left-hand side, you'll have the explanation. What I have tried to do, what we're trying to do is, while you could probably easily just slip this into Dungeons and Dragons, is something generic for that, we're also trying to keep some things open for interpretation, so you can slip it into other games.
Oh, okay.
So my
right.
idea is if you're not playing Dungeons and Dragons, this should be easily moddable to be able to put in other games as well.
Well, that's wonderful. And the NPCs as well?
Yes, NPCs as well. So I believe our first one, Bitsy, so she's going to be mostly fantasy, like the artwork is more fantasy, but easily just change up the look and you can throw her into other places.
And tell us about the newsletter. How is that coming to people? How are they going to see it? If the first one's out and the second one's very, very close.
So we will be releasing to Twitter, and then we have a Substack account, which is where it will be living as like one long newsletter kind of post. So we'll be posting those twice a month. The first and third Mondays of each month, we'll be releasing the newsletter, and they just give a little preview into the next 2 weeks, as well as a preview into what's releasing, including both Patreon and publicly. As well as just and we're going to be expanding. Right now, we just have one article in the back of each. So the first one just talked about some funny feat that I found in D&D 3.5, and then the one that just released today, or for the second one we released, that one has a little review / write-up on the new Project Black Flag release, Playtest 1 from Paizo. So
Okay.
I decided just to do little fun articles, because why not? And then we have other game masters who are going to be submitting just pieces to it in our group. So we're hoping to just bring some fun content for y'all for free, those that want to check us out, and then also give you a preview that if you end up liking our stuff and want to support us as a patron, well, there you'll have some extras.
Now, you said something a moment ago, and I'm sure you saw my eyes glaze over. You said it's going to be released as a Substack. So what is a Substack? Is this another Twitter account or one of those kind of things?
It's another hosting platform, and so it does have I'm still kind of learning the ins and outs of it, but it looks like kind of just a place where you can post about, your newsletter, write articles. It seems to be more geared towards like news articles. But I also found out that, our podcast could be uploaded to that as well, just as another place for people to see. You can subscribe to our Substack too. It's going to be in our little contact in bio, our little bio. So if you want to subscribe to that so you can get those newsletters there, you totally can, or there'll be a link on our Twitter.
Okay, so there's a link on the Twitter, and you said there is a link in the bio. The bio on what? Our YouTube?
On bio on Twitter, or pretty much any of our bios.
So YouTube as well?
Yeah.
You're going to also see it on Instagram?
Yep. So
anywhere else I'm missing?
No. All of the different podcast platforms that we're on.
All right,
so there's a link to that in each of those.
All right, so Spotify and the like. Okay, great.
Yeah, and let's see, another thing that we're really excited about. So we got the Discord released for our patrons. So we're building that up right now. So it is released, but we're constantly talking about what to add to it. And we're hoping to just have a place for the community to chat with us and themselves about the shows. So, when that builds up, that's going to be a fun little thing. And then for the higher tiers, we actually have a Dungeon Master brainstorm channel, so that if those higher tiers, if you want to ask the game masters directly about different games, what they were thinking about this, how did they do this encounter, just brainstorming ideas with the game masters, you have a place to write us little questions.
Okay, so again, everybody at this podcast by now knows I'm a Luddite. This Discord channel, how does that work? How do I get into it? How do I find it? Where are the links for that?
So, a couple ways. One, so you can't find a link to it. So the way it works is if you become a patron, you will be given access to the Discord. So you'll be sent a link.
So this is a patrons only. You have to subscribe at least to which tier?
At least to the $1
So $1 and up. For $1 or more each month, you would then have a link that gets you into the Discord. And now, I'm paid my $1 or more. I'm really generous. I probably would have paid the $5. But if I'm in there now and I'm in the Discord, what am I going to see? What kind of things am I going to be able to do in Discord?
So Discord just give you kind of an idea of what you do. So they're kind of just a big forum. There are different forum servers you can think. So there's different categories you can go to. So if you want to throw a funny meme into, there's a meme channel. If there's a general chat for people just to like introduce themselves, talk amongst one another, whether they want to talk about their day or the podcast, they can do that. There's all kinds of channels with different categories of what you can talk about, or what you try and keep it somewhat organized. And then there's also voice channels. So there's fireside rooms that you can go and you can talk to one another if you want to do voice chat. There's game rooms, just so if you want to be able to go in and just play a digital or game over Discord, you can.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I can get on with potentially one of the people from NCRP Productions that's playing a video game? Like, we could play something together?
Nah. Okay, so you're thinking too high level.
All right.
Yes, in a way.
Jumped out of the Luddite and immediately into full techie.
It's not integrated to the... We don't need to get into how Discord works here. But you can do a lot of different things. Those of you who know what the Discord is, you already know. And those that you need to know, well, you can come in and experience it and learn that way.
And those that are like me, apparently you're going to get taught.
Yes.
All right,
we'll have
good.
to teach you.
Good, because I'd like to know about this Discord thing. Well, so what else do we have?
And then the last kind of thing, there's some other things, but just to kind of keep it small, we have also decided to add for our highest tier and offer to anybody who wants to purchase it. So highest tier will get it for free, but we're going to be collecting and all the items and kind of homebrew content we make during the year, and creating a free for the higher tier, but a ebook of all of our content. So for that year,
ebook, right? Is this
PDF?
It's a PDF. Okay, so this is something where they'll have everything for the year. The last 365 days is going to be put into a single collection with some kind of possibly a neat piece of art by Sequoia or someone else in the front.
And the ideal would be a little extra content as well, just thrown in there.
So some bonus stuff.
Yeah, so thrown in. So those that are at the highest tier will get that for free, like I said, and then the other tiers offer some discounts on that as well. And then for those that might not, not want to sign up as a patron, but might just think that our content is interesting, it'll be available for purchase.
Well, that's wonderful. Okay, I am excited for our year-long newsletter and then our bi-monthly? Nope. Bi-weekly? It's bi-weekly. Bi-weekly newsletter.
Yes. So, yeah, and I'm very excited too, and I've just been statted kind of ahead what we're looking for in, like, Patreon content. Forgot to also mention we're going to be doing a quarterly module, which is also a fun thing.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
So any hints at what that's going to be yet?
Yeah, so Sequoia actually ran this once for a Dread game, and it's a fun little horror game called The Hair Witch.
Hair Witch.
Yes.
I feel like that's a rabbit thing.
It's not. Wrong kind of hair.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah. Interesting.
Very, very. Well, I'm excited to see. Well, beyond that, I know that I am chomping at the bit to talk about DunDraCon 46 in greater detail, but we're going to wait until the group gets here and run that later.
So, for everybody out there right now, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Barry. I'm out.
I'm Pedro, and I'm out too.
Thank you for joining us on another NCRP Productions podcast. We couldn't do this without you, so please like and subscribe everywhere we're found, including YouTube, Facebook, Anchor, Google, Apple, Spotify, and other great podcast sites. If you'd like to help us continue making more content, we'd love to have your support on our Patreon. And if you have any feedback for us, please feel free to comment on our podcasts or email us directly at ncrpproductions@gmail.com. That's ncrpproductions@gmail.com. And we'd like to give a special shout out to our current patrons, MD Parker 4, Chef Francis, Crowman76, Loading Madcat, M. Coling, November Stevenson, and Rosix13. Thank you all. We truly, truly appreciate it.